Okay, welcome back to another video in this basic series I'm trying to put together for Path of Exile for a tabletop role-playing game players. So, 3.26 is coming. There's going to be so many YouTube videos out there, and they're very quite advanced. Unless you really are a hardcore player, you're not really going to understand what any of it means. So I kind of want to make these more basic, freewheeling kind of videos as if someone's just talking to you about elements of the game that you need to understand. And today I want to talk about currency, okay? Now, I have a stash tab that I purchased as a currency tab. Let me just hide this bar here. It's really great because you can set this tab to an affinity, which is this here, and say, hey, listen, only go currency. And I can change the name to whatever I want it to be, right? I could have changed it to something else. They aren't very expensive. I'm not going to look at how much they cost. They're a lifesaver in this game. All the different tabs they have are lifesavers. But when you're just playing, you don't really need it, but you're going to need a tab to put stuff in. And this is another tab that I could use to sell things with. When you get into currency in the game, there's no gold. There is gold in this latest version, but it's not gold the way it used to be and in all the other RPGs since 1976, right? No one's using gold to buy potions. No one's using gold to buy plate mail armor. No one's using gold to buy a magic item. Everything in Path of Exile from the beginning is a system based on an economy on items that drop. We're down here at the most basic lion's eye watch, which is where you're probably end up in your first hour playing, right? And say you want to buy something. Say you're going to play a necromancer like I play. And you're like, hey, I want to play what classic DM Misha the Sled Dog's playing. I want to play what he's playing. Sure, no problem. You're going to want to try to find a wand that's going to have, bonus to minion damage on it, but you may not get that at first. First, you may say, hey, I just need some kind of a wand. You notice that it says cost 1 times orb of transmutation. You're like, what the hell is that? Oh, it looks like this little weird ripped out ovary here, right? It's terrible looking. All the currencies in the game are these little orbs for the most part. And they all have fancy names like Orb of Transmutation and Orb of Alteration and Orb of Augmentation and Chaos Orb. And there's Divine Orbs, one of the most coveted ones in the whole game. You hear people on YouTube call them divs for short. Everything costs a currency. So some things cost scrolls of wisdom, which drop on the ground. Orb of Transmutations drop on the ground. All the currency and these scrolls drop in the game. They're basically like loot. So instead of saying this costs 2,000 gold pieces, this costs 35,000 gold pieces, or like in freaking Diablo 4 where it costs 42 million to redo something, it's not a gold economy. Everything's about a currency drop economy. Therefore, everything in the game is controlled by drop rates. So therefore, things have value. Now, in the very beginning of the game, that's going to be way too complicated to think about. What you're going to find is you're going to get little drops of little gibble bits of currency like transmutation shards. It takes 20 to make an orb of transmutation. You're like, oh gosh, that's going to take me a long time to get that. Don't worry about that as much, because you're going to get orbs of transmutation. You're going to get these orbs of alteration. The annulment ones, not so much. You can see the ones here in my tab that have a lot of numbers on them. Orbs of chance, orb of augmentation, regal orbs some, chaos orbs later on, orb of alchemy, etc. You're even going to see these jeweler's orbs and all these kind of things. Okay, you get a bunch of crazy looking icons. You're going to get lots of these scrolls of wisdom. Let's just take 20 of those. Let's just take 20 of those and put them in our bag. Put 40, or they stack up to 40. This is used to identify items. And let's put these portal scrolls in here, obviously, to make a portal anywhere you want to go. When you're first playing the game and you're trying to get those skill gems like we talked about in the last video, you're going to find that some of these gems cost scroll of wisdom, right? So you're going to need to save scrolls of wisdom to buy skill gems and support gems. Don't burn them all the time to identify something unless it's probably a yellow item, right? So how do all these currencies work if we're not getting the currencies we want? Can we go out and specifically farm for them? No, you cannot. There are currency exchanges in the game related to King's March, which is very complicated, but just from the base core of the game, what I want you to do is save your portal scrolls, save your scrolls of wisdom so you can get the different skill gems that you want, because they're all going to cost a scroll of wisdom in the early part of the game. Now, you're going to go to vendors and get gear, and you're going to be like, well, gear dropped for me, but it's not the right pieces I want. So say you wanted to get a shield. You want a shield. At the low levels, it's going to probably have only 2 links in it at most, and then later on it might get up to 3. And for every piece of gear in the game, they have different number of links. You hear people say the slang word, a 6 link, right? Well, that's going to be either a bow or a piece of body armor like this. And linked, as you'll notice here, with this chest glyph cloak ringmail piece I have here, it has all 6 gems linked. That means one ability in this thing, which is Raise Zombie, is being supported by melee splash, melee physical damage, minion damage, feeding frenzy, which makes them aggressive, which is fantastic, and minion speed. So all these things here, and ranked up to the max level, is why that ability that I have in the game, which is this one down here, can summon as many zombies as I possibly can, and they all do tons and tons of damage because they're all being modified, right? Okay, now what does that have to do with currency? In order to get the gear that you want, you're sometimes going to want to engage in the currency system to not only buy something at the most basic level, but maybe change how it's set up, right? Let's just take a super duper example here. Let's say that we found a wand. I threw a bunch of stupid wands into this currency demo tab, right? Let's just take this wand here. This is a gray wand, relatively low level. It's got a 3 link on it, and let's say to ourselves that we wanted it to have all 3 linked, and we'd like for it to be magic as well. You have to kind of decide early on, like, what do you want to do? What would I do to modify this wand? Well, there's really kind of like a few ways here, and it comes from these orbs, right? This upgrades a normal item to magic. So magic is blue. It's like there's gray items, which are the default type for the level range, so for example, let's take a look at another wand that's gray from a higher level here. Here's one with 21% increased minion damage. I'm a minion player. Everything I do is minions. I'm totally boring. I play the same thing all the time. And this is one where they were high level, and I'm actually going to scour that down to the basic level so you can see what it looks like when it was just fall on the ground. Okay, so you could take these 3 wands, Convening, Convoking, Superior, and Calling wands. They all have minion damage on it, right? This requires level 20, 81 intelligence. This is level 50. It requires 183 intelligence. And this was level 72. And the one that I'm using requires level 72. So this is a higher tier wand. But the low level, you may have this one. Let's say you're level 20, or you find one that's lower than this. And it's got 2 blue sockets and no other sockets. And let's say you want to put your 3 blue zombie gems that you got in here. What would you do? Well, you can use a jeweler's orb to reforge the number of sockets. All right, let me pull this over the side so it's not confusing. We're just going to I'm blowing a bunch of currency that I don't need. I'm not even in the league. This is the default version of the game. So every time I click this currency and I hold down the shift button, I can click it once, and it already has the maximum number of sockets. Okay, what about this one? It only has 1, and wands can have up to 3. So we go click. Oh, there's 1. I do it again. Now there's 3. Great. Now it has the maximum number. I don't need to do that anymore. If it was a 6-link piece of gear, okay, let's say here. Let's ruin it on this piece of plate from a long time ago. Let's scour. No, we can't because it actually has too many. Let's go back and do this. Let's find something in here that doesn't have a lot of links. These tabs are a mess. But I want to show you what happens when you get to something that has a lot of sockets and how you can screw that all up. Okay, let's say we wanted this arena plate to be a 6-link. Let me take these gems out of it. This is from a character I played like 7 years ago or something ridiculous. I'm going to show you how just this one orb. And let's go back to here, and we're going to use this jeweler's orb. Now this is going to change. I'm holding down the right shift key at the same time I'm using this orb. We can put this right here. We use 20 of these, and every time I click this, it already has the max number of sockets. Okay, so for this tier of gear, that's the most it could possibly have been. So at the lower levels, you're going to find that, like, hey, wands can only have 2. When they get to a higher level, they can have up to 3. That's great. But remember, we wanted this one to be linked. This is only a level 20. This one here, an orb of fusing, which looks like a little keyhole, like a weightlifting thing, it reforges the links between sockets on the item. Now that part could go on forever. So we're going to go 1. Hey, it linked perfectly the first time. Let's try it on this one, right, on the chest piece. Now half of them aren't linked anymore. Let's do this a number of times. So you're trying to get this to be all linked. So you can see the RNG, the odds of all of that getting linked it's just, I'm burning through currency over and over. There it is. There it is. Oh, I'm still missing a link in the middle. So you can see you could do this. There's even crafting recipes later on that you can do to say it will burn like 150 of these just to give you a guaranteed number of links. that's when you got a lot of currency. Now think ahead, right? Looks like you're going to need a lot of currency. Looks like my currency tab has a lot of currency. Currency is the secret to increasing your character power by modifying your gear. Okay, remember I talked yesterday about how skill gems and support gems are going to be the key to everything you do, all your attacks, auras, etc. So now we need to maximize the number of sockets on the gear for its maximum possible. Like helmets can only have 4, gloves can only have 4, boots can only have 4, some odd belts can have some. Sometimes you get a ring with a socket in it. Shields and offhand weapons can only have 3. The ones that can have 6, I believe, is, I know it's a bow. I think a big two-handed weapon later in the game can have up to 6 because you're holding it in 2 hands, so you don't have anything in your offhand. All right, so if this is, let's get this gear out of here. Let's put this in here. Get this stuff out of the way. We don't need these gems anymore. So remember, we linked these together. That's great. Now, what else could we do with this wand to make it cool? Well, right now it's just this junky-ass 13% increased damage. Well, if you want to know what it could be for this level range, hold down the Alt key and mouse over the object. Now, this says for this range that this weapon is in, item level 25, it's between 12 and 16. So you can see already that if you were going to spend currency to boost this up, like say for example we take this Regal Orb, upgrade a magic item to, no, we use an Orb of Alchemy, a normal item to rare. That's going to skip blue, which is magic, and go right to rare. Let's say we were to do that. Hey, what happens? Let's take a chance. Boom. They're going to get a bunch of random effects on here. So that's actually not bad for a low level one. The minion deal damage, the one that's between the 2 little gold markers here, is an implicit modifier. And so the implicit modifier is kind of like the one at the top. So you see on this one here, we had an implicit modifier, deals 30% increased damage. We had an additional modifier that we enchanted with to add 22 on top of that. And then we actually have a minion deal 115% increased damage further on. So later on, so you can see the ranges. I waited to get an implicit modifier that was max for the tier. Let's take a look, investigate these other ones. It says 21% increased damage, but it could have been 24. So as you're running through the game world, and as you're running around and looking at vendors and seeing what they have for sale, right, you can say to yourself, if I'm going to spend my 1 orb of transmutation on something, or my scroll of wisdom on this goat horn, it's already a 3-link. What could it have been? Well, it could have been 2 to 4 fire damage. That's not that big of a deal or low level, but the fact that this is a 3-link blue means I don't have to do the RNG game of trying to blow these currencies, which are hard to get, to make it better. So I could, if I wanted to, later on, use an Orb of Alchemy and put it on this little goat horn and boost it up. And now it only requires level 8. It adds fire damage. It has physical damage, which is pretty much useless unless you're using like a kinetic bolt ability. But it has a little bit of attack speed. But it's physical damage over time multiplier. That's not that great. Stun and accuracy. So you see it's RNG, and there's like thousands of these. So there are ways to re-roll things that are on a rare, which is usually a Chaos Orb, which is usually pretty expensive. But I just want to do this for the demonstration, right? I can click that and it will re-roll everything. So you could, if you had a lot of currency later on and you were powering up an alt, say you had like 5,000 Chaos Orbs like I had here in this bag, you could sit here all day long and do it that way. There are much better, more controlled, more intelligent, less currency wasteful methods to craft weapons with the right type of implicit and explicit modifiers that you'd like to have. That's not the goal of the video. It's just to show you that the currency allows you to change what's going on. But notice how the implicit here is, the little fire damage at the top adds 1 to 3 fire damage, and that never changes. And the level doesn't change because it's in a bracket of a piece of gear. So you can sit here all day long spending all these expensive, Chaos Orbs trying to re-roll that, but that's not really the best way you want to do it. Let's say you wanted to remove everything, scour everything back down to that basic gray wand again. So now you're starting to see how this works, right? You have weapons that happen to be in tiers, right? And you can say to yourself, you know what? If I find a gray wand that is 30% increased damage, it's not hard. That's the max it's ever going to be in the game. It's item level, requires level 72. This might be a better one to waste my currency on. Gosh, I'm so stupid to have wasted my currency earlier on the low level one. But then again, this is a judgment call, right? You're probably going to find a 3-link wand. It doesn't have to be a wand. It could be a pair of boots that you can wear that allows you to link up those skill and support gems that you need to start doing more damage, to killing more stuff, to start leveling up those gems, even having pieces of gear with multiple sockets of different color to just throw a gem you're going to use at a later date in there to get it leveled up. So by the time you get ready to use it, like for example, you may have a melee physical damage support gem, but you don't have a carrion golem or something like that yet, and you want to make sure that you boost this gem up along the way until this other gem opens up for you at a later date, right? There's nothing wrong with ranking the gems up earlier than it is to do it too late. All right, so we saw that how when we see an item lying on the ground in loot, you can actually check it out on the ground because you're not going to be using any loot filters in the beginning. And you can say to yourself, you know what? This is a great, for the level range that I'm in, this is kind of a middle-of-the-road wand. I really do need to upgrade. I'm using a crappy one. What should I do with it? So let's say you're this level range here. Remember how this one here was level 20? We're going to scour this back down to nothing. All right. Scouring orbs don't drop often. So what you just saw me do is kind of wasteful. I'm just doing it for the purposes of explaining to you how things work. Let's look at what else we could do with a basic gray wand that we got lucky that has a 3-link that's blue. Like say we're like, hey, this is really great. I want to put my raised zombie, minion damage support, and maybe you got minion speed support. Those are the only 3 you've gotten so far. Whether they dropped on the ground, you bought them from vendors, or got request rewards. What could you do? Well, you could upgrade this to a magic item, or you could reforge a magic item with new random modifiers. Let me show you what that looks like. So this is going to turn to a blue wand. Now, notice the implicit didn't change. It just added this 1-4 lightning damage to spells. That's not very good. The Oba alteration will re-roll this. So now it's physical damage. So these, as you can see, I have 2,000 of them, 775 of these. I have a lot of Chaos Orbs because I engaged in a trade system over the course of multiple leagues. And you have a lot of Orbs of Chance. Some of the Orbs, like removes a random fire item from a modifier from an item, this Orb of Annulment, you can tell they don't drop very often, right? An Orb Augmentation augments a magic item with a new random modifier. So you're like, okay, I didn't like that one. I want to try that and add a new one. Minions have 7% crash attack speed. That sounds kind of cool. Now it has no more room for no more mods for this level range. So we could have, that's one other thing you could do. Now let's say that we have, I'm going to change this on purpose. Let's say that we got a wand, but it's got this darn red gem, and at low levels we just want to have 3 blues linked together. This chromatic, the colors chroma, reforges the color of sockets on an item. These 3 here are related to sockets that you saw me use earlier. This one changes the number of sockets. One of them will change whether they're linked together, and the last one changes the colors. Like, look at this crappy little wand here, right? Here's a crappy little 1-socket wand. Goodbye. You want to change the number of sockets that are on this item. Okay, it got 3. Great. And now what do you want to do? Let's get the colors matching first. Okay, they're all blue. That's great. And we use an Orb of Fusing to link them together. Nope, that didn't link all 3. That removed everything. That only linked 1. Only linked 1. Nothing. The top one only. Ah, there we go. I burned like 6 or 7 currency there. You don't want to go out and play for an hour and come back and do this once. You kind of want to say to yourself, okay, I'm at a point where I'm starting to feel the power of the game is kind of crushing me and killing me. I kind of know which ability I really want to use. I'm playing a class that has intellect. I'm going to kind of stick with blue gems in the beginning because I don't have a lot of dexterity, don't have a lot of strength. I'm going to just play into that till I find what kind of abilities I want to use. I really need to have a 3-link. And these are the goals you're going to set for yourself. And as you go through the game, hey, I need a 3-link gloves. I want to find a 4-link helmet. I want to find a 4-link. You're not going to find the perfect 4-link very often on the ground or the 6-link chest piece on the ground. You're going to want to pay attention to what the core item type is as well. So this one here, we're going to do this green, blue. There we go, blue again. So the currencies have a function. They're also used to buy certain things from certain vendors. This is a normal item to a random rarity. Orb of Chance happens a lot more often. Let's say we have our little level 20 wand. Let's move these guys out of the way here. That we found, or we bought the vendor. It's already linked. We could try upgrading it to a random rarity. It means it's either going to become blue or it's going to become yellow. It won't become orange or unique. But let's just try it for fun because there's a lot more of that than we have available than anything else. What are we going to get? Nothing that cool. We could try the Orb of Alteration. Ah, look at that. I got minion stuff. So I got all 3 things are minion stuff. Now, I can't ever change that 13% you see at the top. you can't change these particular numbers, like the 31% increased damage. That's a great little wand right there. And you probably have that much currency in the first 10 levels of the game. So as you're picking up currency, save the stuff. Keep your eyes peeled for stuff on the vendors that looks like it might match up to what you want to do. Let's say you were doing elemental damage. Let's see if there's anything in here for elemental. Nope. Let's go check this guy over here. You're going to learn, like, hey, I noticed that these certain items have certain implicits on them. Elemental here. Oh, there's some with elemental. Scepters almost always have increased elemental damage. Say you're playing a class where you're hitting things with a scepter. This has already got 2 links on it. Let's say we buy that. Say we've got our 1 orb of transmutation. We can go back over here and say, all right, this scepter, is it a good one or is it a bad one? We're going to hold down the Alt key. It's 12% increased elemental damage. There's no range. It's a very basic scepter. So we have 2 ways to do it. We could take the Orb of Chance. Maybe we'll get a yellow. Or we could guarantee just to go to blue and then just modify the blue. Maybe that's the cheaper thing to do at this early stage. So we're going to go from gray to blue. Strength's kind of cool. There are a lot of elemental abilities. You're using a scepter, like if you're playing a Marauder or something else like that, where you're smashing things like Infernal Blow and it blows up. Sometimes strength and elemental damage works really well together, right? Well, in fact, almost all the ability. Let's do a random new modifier with this one. Remember, this is the Orb of Alteration. We're going to click this, right-click this. Okay, it added 30% increased elemental damage with attack skills. That sounds great. That's a pretty good roll. You can actually hold down the Alt key and see that's the maximum number. Now, I don't have any kind of special treatment happening with grinding gear games. I'm a game director in the industry. Any other chode kid playing the game could be doing this right now. So that's pretty decent. It's not yellow. If we scour it down, it'll go back to being white and have nothing on it. You might be like, well, you know what? That's pretty good. I want to make sure I get the maximum number of, remember, sockets on here. So we're going to take the currency. Let's say you just have, let's put it this way. Let's say you have 13 of these in your bag. All right, we'll close this down. You're going to right-click this, and as you hover over the object, you're going to hold on the Shift key. Okay, there's 3. That's good. We don't need that anymore. Now let's try recoloring first before we relink, and I'll put the links in here too. All right, let's try to get blues. Now, notice how it's going all red. Every piece of gear in the game, each weapon type, is sort of designed around the theme. Like daggers are oriented around dexterity. Bows are oriented around dexterity. Wands are oriented around intelligence, which is blue gems, right? And strength is red gems. Scepters end up being kind of oriented around red. So when you're trying to get this thing to be 3 blues, you're going to find it much harder to get them all to be 3 blues. But it is possible. But notice I might get a green. There's 2 blues and 1 red. I'm getting a green. So you're spending a lot more currency trying to use a scepter, and when you want to use intellect-oriented gems. It can be done. It's not impossible, but it's going to be harder for you to get that. We're already burned, 7 of these? Let's keep doing this till we get all 4. 9, 8. Oh, there they are. Okay, so I spent like 12 or 13 of these. Let's try and link them together. Great, they're all linked. So now we've got a really decent little scepter here. Increased elemental damage, 30% increased elemental damage with attack skills, right? So that's very different than using a spell. Let me explain that to you as well, because these things are so interrelated, it's kind of crazy. Let's say that we wanted to have Fireball, right? You say to yourself, yeah, I'm going to put Fireball in here. I'll put Fireball in here, and I'm going to find a support gem into SUP, and we want Fireball to spell Cascade, summon Phantasm. No, we want Volley in there. Well, that's green. That won't work. Let's add lightning damage. We're going to add lightning damage to our Fireball. I wouldn't recommend doing this. And it does more fire damage and combustion support, right? And then you take this off, put this on here, equip the weapon. Now I've got Fireball in my bar down here, the sort key. Now here's what the problem with this is, right? This is an attack skill modifier happening. This weapon increases elemental damage with attack skills, not with spells. So in this case, I'm only getting the advantage of the elemental damage of the Fireball spell that you may be casting going like this, right? So pay attention to the wording. This is something about the game you're going to find to be very, very tricky, is that the way things are worded have meaning to them. So if I was playing a melee-oriented build, let's find a melee-oriented attack ability. So we don't have very many here because we're an intelligence-based class, so we don't have them all. Let's just say that we wanted to do, I'll tell you what, I'll go to my vendor, in my hideout, which will have everything. Go to my hideout, go find Lily, Roth, Time and Tide, Wait for No Man. And we're going to buy a red gem that does fire. This is doing elemental damage. Let's put our little staff back on, our little scepter. We're going to take these out. And this is important. It seems like I'm just dilly-dallying around. I'm actually kind of showing you how you think about some of these things. Ground Slam, Cleave, Glacial Hammer, Heavy Strike. And what's it going to do now? Increase elemental. So it could be any elemental. Okay. So let's say we really like Glacial Hammer. So what you can do is, this is a red gem. We're going to change that socket color. We're going to get 3 reds. And Glacial Hammer does what? It does physical damage converted to cold damage. Okay, that sounds neat. What can we do with cold elemental damage? Elemental. Okay. Elemental damage with attacks deals 20% more elemental damage. That sounds great. And lastly, inspiration, brutality, supportive skills, so 25% more physical damage, but they deal no elemental damage. That won't help us. Let's do fire. How about cold? What does this one do? Support skills, 30% more melee damage, deal 30% more damage with bleeding and poison, called melee, with left attack speed. No, that's not going to help us at all. Let's see what's over here. Cold penetration, that sounds good. So we need a red, and a green. Remember we talked about this is going to be how you're getting your gear set up. So we're going to go back to our currency. We need to change the colors on this to be red, green. And we're going to use these chromatic orbs and go click those red and green. Red and green, come on, red, green, red, blue. That's let's see, maybe we can do something with that. Let's put Glacial Hammer in there, and let's put elemental damage. Let's see if there is a support gem that's blue to save us the hassle that's going to affect. Let's put in the word elemental in here. Elemental proliferation, that's for dots. Elemental focus, they deal more elemental damage and cannot inflict ailments. Okay, that's fine. So now we got a little weapon here. We can do this little ability here called Glacial Hammer, and we can smash stuff with Glacial Hammer and have a good time with that. Let's go to part 1. I don't know. Let's just go to like Act 4 or something. I'm not a no, I hate the Crystal Veins. Let's just go to the Aqueduct. I'm not a melee-oriented class. I don't have a lot of strength. I have too many zombies. Let me get rid of the zombies so you can see what this looks like. Take this off, put this back on. Take this off, put this back on. Take this off. This will get rid of all the summons. Okay, now we have no summons. And let's see here. We're gonna put leave that all off. All that's off for now. Okay, so now we're gonna put insert. We're gonna make our right mouse button smash Glacial Hammer, which will go like this, right? So we're swinging like this. Yippee! Let's find something to hit it. Now remember, I don't have any strength. This ability is only a level 1 ability, right? It's going to scale with strength as you level up because it's a red gem. Let's see what happens when you hit dudes with this stuff. Don't you love it when you go to a dead end? And the scepter is a little one-handed weapon. Let's hit these guys. Boom, boom. And they're high enough level where this is already ranked up to the next rank. So you may say to yourself, hey, that's pretty cool. I like that. I like that ability. Is there anything about the ability that I'm doing wrong? So let's go back and read the gem because there's a little trick here, right? What does this say it requires, right? Hits enemies converting some of your physical damage to cold. Okay, that works. All right, that works. We don't need to use a two-handed weapon. Is this modifying this? Say you don't know. So take the skill gem, put it down below, and mouse over it. And you can see here on the left-hand side that it is affecting Glacial Hammer. That's good. We'll put that in. And is this affecting Glacial Hammer? Yes. So we know that all 3 things are being affected. So that's kind of a crash course of like how you want to use the gems, the currency, the skill gems, everything is interrelated. Let's just go ahead and get out of here. Let's do it this way. To find why you need to save all the currency so you can modify your gear to make sure your gear is as cool as possible and that you don't that you have fun trying out the abilities that you want to use, right? So let's see here. We'll put our normal receptor back on. All right, good. Now let's go back to the currency tab one more time, and let's kind of talk through real briefly some of the other currencies that are important. In the early part of the game, you're going to get scroll fragments. Just ignore that crap. And when you find little pieces like this, like transmutation shards and alteration shards and annulment shards, don't worry about that. They take like 20 to build up to make one of these. You're going to find that these drop up pretty decently anyway. This is all the weapon enchanting kind of row that we've been talking about here. This one right here also will add a new modifier. This is where all the links-oriented 3 currencies are. But what are these up here? Excuse me. A blacksmith whetstone improves the quality of a weapon. So let's say we had our little weapon down here, and we want to take some of these, we want to improve the quality. So let's click it once. Notice that the physical damage number is going up, right? It's not changing the level requirement, is it? Nope, it's at max quality now. So that we've done that. This does armor scraps increase the quality of a piece of armor. And you can see I've applied that to this piece of armor to get it to 20%. So 20% is the highest number that you can have on any piece of gear or any piece of armor, which you can even do to unique items. Now you are going to find situations like this, like improves the quality of a gem. You'll figure that out later. Skill gems can have quality levels on them where you boosted them up. Like my raised zombie gem, I used the font in the Ascendancy trial multiple times to get it to 20% quality. And you can go to the wiki and read like, hey, increasing the quality does what for what abilities. Some abilities I didn't increase the quality because it didn't really make the effect of increasing quality didn't really benefit me. So this is how the currency system works in a basic nutshell. All right. I want to talk about economy real quick here for not too long. The economy in the game is driven by players. All right, so we're going to go to the Path of Exile website. We're logged in already. On the Path of Exile website, they have a trade system. It is insane. It's oriented around the following things. It's oriented around a player having a stash tab that they paid for, that they called something, that they right-clicked on, and they said they want to make it public, right? Each item priced individually. So then you have items down here, like, okay, I want to right-click this item. I want to sell it for the exact price of 50 Chaos Orbs. There's no one going to pay that. I'm just going to put it in there because someone will message me about it. So you can go through the tab, have items that you don't need. This is a remove only tab. You can make it where you sell things. So what will happen is the items you put for sale here will show up in a few minutes in the trade site of the Path of Exile main page. This is not a third-party site. It's a secure site controlled by Grinding Gear Games. Over here, you have home, game, forum, events, and trade. Here's where you would search for something, right? They always does this. This is Cloudflare. Let's see, for example, how much my shield is worth. I always use this damn shield. I'm the most narrow-minded dude in the world. I love this damn Aegis effect on this shield. I play a zombie build where I'm not casting spells. I don't want to take any damage. I want as much armor as possible. I always want to make sure I have as much defense as possible. I want the maximum amount of energy shield and health and armor. I want to have anything to help me recover from being tapped by a projectile. I don't want to be killed by random crap. I want to have max resist. My chaos resist is at max, but there's a reason why we're talking about this. The Ghastly Theater unique. Why do I like it? Okay, it usually has armor and evasion rating on it. Evasion is like dodge, and armor mitigates physical damage hits. It usually has 180% block recovery. Remember how I was teaching you about how you can press the Alt button? Let's do that here. Well, you can see the implicit modifier on this Ghastly Theater teak round shield, even though it doesn't look like it's made out of teak, is always going to be 180% increased block recovery. Block recovery is going to affect you when you get hit by something where you go, and play a stagger animation. You want me to make that sound for you again? Okay. Triggers level 20 physical Aegis when equipped. Unscalable value. Physical Aegis is this up here you can see on my character sheet. It is like a free shield from World of Warcraft playing a Disc Priest, right? Physical damage from hits is taken from the Aegis before your life or your energy shield. Aegis will be restored to full value if you take no physical damage for hits for a while. Now, they don't say how long a while is, but it's usually about 4 to 6 seconds. So if you're running around and something hits you It's going to hit the Aegis shield, which you can see around my character here is this big orange bubble, like the Bubble Boy or something. And that's going to take damage before my energy shield or before my life. It's an added layer of protection. No feminine products were hurt in the saying of that sentence. So we can look, what else does this thing do? Okay, so nearby enemies are blinded while physical Aegis is not depleted. So as long as it's got something on it, when I'm running around, enemies get blinded. Being blinded means the enemies have a 20% less accuracy rating and evasion rating. That means they're going to be less likely to hit me, less likely to hit my zombies, and my zombies are going to try to hit them, and they're going to be less likely to dodge zombie strikes. Now, this values here, increased critical strike chance with when physical Aegis is depleted. That's great, but it doesn't say physical critical strike. It means all critical strike, but I don't do anything that causes critical strike. If I was casting another ability that did damage, that might help. I don't believe increased critical strike chance affects minions. Correct me if you're wrong. If you're a hardcore minion player better than me, that's great. Let me know if that affects minion players, meaning my zombies get the same effect. Increased attack and cast speed while physical Aegis is depleted. That never happens, but if it does get depleted and I need to summon something really quickly, it's going to help. +2 to the level of socketed support gems. Not the main gem, the support gem. 100% chance to avoid bleeding. So if you get hit by something that puts a bleed on you, that's really nasty. Increased armor and evasion. 370, 400 could have been the best. This is a great shield. I really love it. It's for the build like mine where I'm not trying to squeeze out some more DPS out of my character, it helps a lot. Now, in the shield, I have my carrying golem, right? And then I have my melee splash support for my carrying golem. And then I have faster attacks for my carrying golem. So let's go ahead and get him up. So let's put 1, 2, and 3. There's my carrying golem. So this guy leaps and slams into packs of mobs, does a bunch of damage. He's affected by, I'll make a necromancer video soon. He does more damage and stuff, and he helps all the other minions. So he's super useful. You only have one golem out at a time. You can read it. He has more attack speed. He hits more splash. I'll be fighting a bunch of stuff, and he'll just dive in the pack and go and just blow everything up. Now we're talking about the trade site. We've learned how to get the gems. Notice how mine is RGB: red, green, and blue. The Ghastly Theater. We're going to go back to the trade site here real quick, and we're going to type in by name the Ghastly. You can probably just get to there. And we want to do, it's a weapon, armor. Let's see here. The Ghastly Theater Teak Round Seat. So as I'm typing the keyword, it shows up. So this is going to list every single person. If I hit search at the bottom, valid league to search in. Okay, let's click the league. Select the auction, Ruthless Standard League. All right, every person in the game that's selling one of these things, it'll pop up like this. And I can sort this by the lowest price all the way to the highest price. I can filter it by particular block chance or things like that. Things that are variables on the weapon. I could actually search for that and find one that suits my needs, right? Like I say, listen, I really want this one to have, I want to do an upgrade. I really want to be 370 or higher armor and evasion. So you could go to the trade site and add in additional filters and search for things that fit that criteria. Usually what people do in the beginning, if you're ever going to do this, you're going to just kind of look and glance at the ones that are there because most of the stuff is going to be the same, and you can look at the prices. Here's the problem with this system, right? People price fix. So these are all players, some of them AFK, some of them still online. You click this button, like say I want to buy this from this person here. I would say direct whisper. It sends them a whisper in the game. This is a Russian player. He would have to invite me to his group. Then I would join his party. I'd teleport to his hideout. I wait for him to open the trade window, and then he put the shield in there, and I mouse over it, make sure it's cool. Then I put my chaos orbs in there, etc., etc., etc. This is a Russian dude. He's probably never going to answer me. Now, why do I want to mention that kind of stuff? It's because even though we've talked a lot about how to get little gray gear boosted up, reroll sockets, change gem sockets, change the number of sockets connected, the real way you gear up in the game later on as you start collecting currency, you go and try to find one that someone else is selling because they need currency too. So you can see the different sockets, right, already are different on these different ones. So if I was looking for, hey, this one's got a white socket on it, the white socket will accept any gem type. So for 3 chaos orbs, if I want to message this person, if it is a real person, and I could take a look at the stats here and mouse over every single thing and see what the difference is. This is 300% armor and evasion. This one here's 323. Mine's actually better right now, 341. You could do a search and narrow that down. So you get to balance out, like, what is it you want to do. It does summarize at the bottom, like the total armor and total evasion of each one down here, like here. See, this one here is corrupted, means it can't be enchanted or modified. This one here is only 594 and 594. This one's 729 and 729. As they get more and more expensive, usually they're better. But what happens sometimes is people will put a bunch of them up for sale at a price in order to trick people into thinking that they're for sale because they want some dumbass to come in there and put theirs for sale for the same low price. For example, and a lot of Asian players do this. I don't know why. I have nothing against people who live in Asia, but a lot of Korean players do this. Japanese players and Chinese players, I've never seen them do this, but I've seen Korean players who are just nuts, who are real money type players do this all the time. They'll put stuff up for sale. They'll never sell it. They'll be online. You'll message them. They'll never respond. They'll have the item up really, really low when it's really coveted. What they're trying to do is get someone else to sell it for less or undercut them so that they can then come buy it from you. It's a really nasty trick. All right, so the purpose of the video today was to give you a sense about the currency. Save all the currencies you get. Always pick them up. When you start getting to a situation where you're like, I kind of want to know like what I should do, think back to like, how do we make our little scepter here, right? And you can do that process all the way to the end game. Later on, you can do things like enchant stuff with an enchanting table, and you're going to find recipes in the game world where you say, okay, here's my little scepter I got. What can I do with the crafting bench with my little scepter? I can put it in here, and I can see that, like, well, you know, it's a really low level scepter, but if I really wanted to get some more strength, I could put, you know, 20 to 25 strength on it, and there it is. The light cyan color blue is the strength. I'd have to scour it to change that stat to something else. You may want to say, I want it to have increased critical strike chance, right? You could do that, replace it, and we replace that with critical strike chance. So you can do a little traditional crafting modifications to your gear, but it's RNG. And so that's why you need the trade site later on, because everyone else's RNG is of every shape and form, especially for uniques, is for sale. So between crafting and modifying some pieces you find as you go through the journey of getting a 2-link and then a 3-link and then a 6-link chess piece or a 5-link, and once you get to the campaign and you get like level 65, you finish the whole campaign and you start doing mapping, that's where you're going to eke out more and more and more power. So when you start running random maps and stuff, then you'll be like, wow, now my character power is getting so much better. Okay, one last little trick, and then I'm going to make a necromancer video. How can you tell how effective the change you made to a piece of gear is really making a difference, right? How do you know if what you did is making a difference at all, right? Let's do this. Let's try a different character. Let's do another character. Let's go back to that champion bow guy, right? Who's not awesome, but fairly okay. One of the very first times we ever played, we really started crafting stuff. So this guy, let's go look at his weapons. Let's say we were to, he has caustic arrow and he has greater volley support. So caustic arrow is right here and it says how much DPS it does. 1,956 DPS, which is not amazing, but it's okay for like mapping up to like map level 10. So if I were to take this support gem out and put it here, this goes up higher. Now why is that? Because it went from shooting multiple arrows, it reduced the damage. So it does less damage because I'm only shooting one arrow. But is that a bad thing, or is that a good thing, or is that a bad thing? Is when you're playing the game, why did I have it shoot with greater volley? Well, for me, greater volley gave me more location control. So even though I'm sacrificing the damage, I boosted up the damage with everything else to be enough to go boom, boom, and I've covered a whole area of the map without having to shoot 2 or 3 times. I mean, I don't need to stand still very long. If I take that greater volley gem out and the DPS number goes up, that might be great for fighting a boss, but now it's a smaller area. I'm having to spend more time shooting multiple arrows to cover an area. Now I'm in a low-level map, but see the little splat of the caustic arrow and what it's going to hit is much smaller. This ability is affected by hitting things with projectile damage and by the burning effect that's on the ground at the same time. So you can mouse over your different abilities. Like this ballista version is only 831 DPS. The purpose of the ballistas is to drop damage and forget items on the ground while I'm focusing on running away, right? So I'm not having to sit there and worry about that while it's shooting everything with all these different types of visual, it's shooting everything on the screen. I'm not even firing my weapon. I'm just throwing down these ballistas. It's covering the screen with caustic arrow shit, right? Great when there's lots of trash chasing you. You don't want to sit there and fight all day long. Drop this down here, drop this down here. Just run through the pack, dash to the pack, kill these blue guys yourself. And so there was a reason for that. DPS isn't always the best thing to do. Sometimes the action of the ability, how many of them they shoot, or their duration of the dots. Like for example, on Caustic Arrow, I had greater volley, like I just explained. I want to cover a larger area of the ground when I have to pull up and stop and shoot, because every time I fire this ability, even if I'm running, it makes me stop. I'm holding down the run button, the left mouse button. I fire this button, and it makes me stop for half a second. Why would I want to use this one? This does more chaos damage and physical damage over time. It has less attack speed. That's okay. I don't care. It's shooting fast enough. It's not like I'm going to sit there and do this all day long. If I had an ability where I was having to spam the ability over and over, then that would be a problem. But this one, supporter skills deal 40% more area damage, but have 30% less area of effect. And you can see that makes a big difference when there's only one little arrow versus a bunch of arrows, right? So let's take volley out, and let's take vicious projectiles. This was concentrated effect. Okay, one arrow, one effect there. If we put the volley in there, it does this, and we put the concentrate effect, which reduces its size. So you can see how that's making a difference in the location and the size. Let's do it this way. One arrow, pretty big area, right? Between this cactus and this rock. We'll shoot this little thing on the ground, this broken pottery on the ground. Let's take that out. About the same, isn't it? But what's the actual effect of this? More area damage, less area of effect. So I want to cover as much damage as possible, and I want volley, even though it's costing me some damage, to cover more screen real estate, and I want the concentrated effect of this to be more damage in a smaller area, so I don't mind that. So as you can see, you can play with the gems that you have linked for a particular ability and see what its effect is on by mousing over this. You don't have to open up Path of Building or all these kind of things that are very complicated to get a sense of how the damage you're trying to do with your character class works. All right. On Friday, my plan is to stream on YouTube Live. I'm going to roll a brand new Necromancer from scratch in the new league. I'm just going to casually play the way I always play by myself. My wife is playing too, but she's going to be racing. I'm not going to do the racing. I'm going to take my time and get all the stuff I need. She's trying to get to the end game because she's going to play a build that requires her to have currency sooner than later when no one's playing the Necromancer build like me, and so I don't have to race. You may see her from time to time popping in and out. So that's kind of the crash course on the currencies, how they work, and you probably hopefully are getting a sense now of how does currency relate to gear and sockets and links and colors of sockets, how that then relates to the type of enchants that are on the gear, how much RNG there is, how much control you can have over it. You may find that it's better to just save up chaos orbs and go buy stuff from the trade site than it is to try to craft your own perfect wand later in the game. When I was leveling up, I crafted a little bit here and there and mostly used stuff I got along the way. But sometimes I'm like, man, I really want this to be a 3-link. I need this 3-link at level 16. I went ahead and spent my currency. Even if I spent it all and it didn't link them all, every time I got another piece of currency, I would try linking it again. And you're going to see me do this on Friday night. I think the patch is supposed to go live at 4 Eastern. But if it doesn't go live, it's like 5 or 6. We'll start later. I'll make comments in the stream if there's no one there, in case you ever go back and watch the stream, because I'm not really a streamer. I just want to do it to kind of capture a long recording without having to put 80 gigs of files on my PC. Anyway, so that's a really fast crash course on the currencies, how they work. It's a really interesting game. Has a lot of cool synergies to it. There are some bad things about it at the end game where you lose experience when you die. The trade site is kind of a problem, but it is better than nothing because you aren't going to get perfect stuff to drop for you. It's not like playing Diablo 2 and 3 and 4 or 1 and getting drops and using the drops, because you're going to be crafting this stuff or trading this stuff or buying it from the vendors and then modifying it. Okay, we'll leave it at that. The next video will cover up my Necromancer build, how I'm going to play in the 3.26 League. We'll talk to you later. Take care.